very much for being here tonight. We promise to start on time, and we promise to also stay as late as we need to answer questions that you have. But I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Keith Golly, Assistant Superintendent. I'm here supporting Superintendent Conrad tonight. But the reason I'm here doing the introductions is really Gus Schnitzer and I have played a heavy role in the security plans and security committee over the last 4 years. So we'll get to all the other introductions in a moment. I first want to say that this is really part of a larger effort. The security committee for the Nauset schools has been highly active the last 4 years. We've always had in place individual school plans. More recently, we've updated district emergency response plans. We have worked with not only police and fire, but also with the National Park Rangers, National Park Service, and school administration to really be making collective decisions. And on top of that, Superintendent Conrad has regular meetings with the chiefs. I see Chief McDonald here tonight. Thank you, Scott. But we have regular meetings, regular communication with the police chiefs as well. In terms of the goal, obviously our goal tonight is to help inform you. We want to be constantly changing and adapting to do whatever we can do to improve the safety of our students. And we don't want you to ever believe that it's all about the plan, the drills, the procedures. I think we all know the most important part in terms of any school safety is relationships. It's your relationship with your children, it's our relationship with our students, and it's the communication that goes back and forth, and that has really improved thanks to Gus's efforts, thanks to the chief's efforts. In terms of tonight, the parent piece is obviously something that was actually planned in advance of the Parkland, Florida shootings. That piece, we actually delayed some student training because we didn't want the training for students to happen right after that critical incident. I'm glad to see as I look around as well that we have all adults in the audience. But if there is a need for you to leave or if a child happens to come in later on, we're really recommending this to be adult audience. It is being taped tonight, so you will have access later on if you do need to leave at any point. In terms of tomorrow, there will be training for the high school students tomorrow. And that will take the form that, again, was delayed 2 weeks from prior to vacation until tomorrow morning. But obviously, that will take the form that's appropriate for the students. So some of what you're seeing tonight may be different than what the students are seeing tomorrow. The same would be true if we do training at our middle school level, at the elementary school levels. Obviously, that's going to differ based upon the age of the students. And the responses in the trainings are going to differ based upon the ages of the students. In terms of the presentation, we anticipate the presentation to be about 30 minutes. We do ask that you hold questions until after the presentation, but we do promise to stay again until all of your questions are at least addressed. We may not have answers. We may need to get back to you in some cases, but we certainly will stay as long as necessary to address any of the questions that you have. The final piece is really introductions. So introduction, Sergeant Gus Schnitzer from the Eastham PD.
Good evening.
Gus, again, has been one of our co-chairs on the security committee and has really been instrumental in leading the security plans that are in place right now. We also have our school resource officers, Neil Boland from the middle school, Carrie D'Angelo from the high school. Behind Carrie is Detective Andy McLaughlin, Orleans Police Department, and he is also a member of the security committee, as are all these folks. And then Deputy Chief Dan Keene from Eastham Fire Department. I'll finish with this, and that is, in any true critical incident, the first responders are the lead. What we do as a school system is we try to enhance what they're telling us is the best course of action for drills, for communication, for plans. But we will turn it over to them right now and we'll get on with our parent presentation. And thank you again.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming to this important. Thank you for coming to this important meeting. about our most precious resource here on the Outer Cape, and that's our children. As a police officer, I've been a police officer for 21 years, and also as a parent for almost 14 years. My children go to this district. My daughter is now at East Ham Elementary School. I have another daughter at the middle school. I also have a wife that teaches here, not at the high school, but at the middle school. So this is near and dear to my heart, and that's what I get so passionate about this topic, because it really does hit home when I have to be at home with my 10-year-old, 11-year-old, and my 14-year-old, and I have to explain to them what happened in Florida. And I have to explain to them how to be safe. And that's a really tough conversation to have, and it was horrendously difficult to have with them last night, right when it happened. It was last night at dinner time. And it was hard at first, but as we got into it, you could see the relief. They understood what I was saying to them, that they have the permission to do whatever is necessary to come home safe to mommy and dad. And that's what this ALICE program is all about. Now we have 3 ALICE instructors in this program. Myself, I've been an ALICE instructor since 2013. I got the certification in 2013. Detective Sergeant McLaughlin from Orleans PD is also an ALICE instructor. And Officer D'Angelo is our school resource officer here at the Nauset High School. So we're bringing to you, and we also bring to the district and the children here and the teachers, this ALICE training. And it's deeply important. It makes common sense. So this quote from Theodore Roosevelt, I like to start this ALICE presentation and every ALICE presentation with. When you're faced with danger, you must do something. In a moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing, the next best thing you can do is the wrong thing, the worst thing you can do is nothing. And that really drives home what ALICE is. We want our kids to do something to save their own lives. We want our staff, our teachers, to do something to save themselves, to save the children that we've entrusted their care with. And it's difficult because at first, when you look at this, you're like, wow, how do we really get into teaching our kids how to be safe at school? And I really do believe it starts at home. If we're having these private conversations with our kids at home, why aren't we telling everybody in the schools about it publicly? Shouldn't we do that? Shouldn't we tell, if I'm as a police officer telling my little girls how to be safe, shouldn't I also share that with everybody else here? So ALICE embraces a movement beyond just lockdown. We've practiced lockdown for years. We've gotten good at it. But the reality of lockdown is it can't be the only thing that we do for assailants that are coming into our schools. ALICE stands for A for alert, L for lockdown, I for inform, C for counter, E for evacuate. There's no steps. It's just an acronym. It's not a linear or progressive response. You can jumble up the letters and handle ALICE any way you like. But at any point, you can take one part of ALICE and you can solve a problem. And that's where what I tell my kids. So E for evacuate, right? Have I told my little girl that if it's the safest thing for her to do to exit the building in the face of a gunman, is that the right thing for you to do? And she understands. That's what's going to bring her home with mom or dad. Is that also the right thing that we can teach our staff to help with? Absolutely. AliceTraining.com. If you guys don't go there now, but when you get home, check it out online. There's some good videos. There's some good information that you guys can glean from there. I highly recommend it. So again, we're talking about age-appropriate discussions, options for students and staff, the permission to act on their instincts and their common sense, and to improvise, adapt, and overcome. When I ask my little girls what they can do when in the face of danger or somebody is trying to put hands on them, might be someone that's trying to adopt, touch inappropriately, what can you do? And the answers kind of shock you because they kind of know what to do, but they're not really sure. They want that permission. They need permission to do it. And that's where we get into this, Alice. We need the permission. We need to grant permission to our kids, to our staff members, to do whatever is necessary to save lives. It's the mental permission slip. And I use the permission slip because we're in schools. We get permission slips to be late. We get permission slips to go to the bathroom. Well, as a police officer, when I give these Alice presentations at schools, I'm giving these children and these teachers that permission slip to do whatever is necessary. Traditional lockdown, where we ask kids to just hide in the corner and wait for the inevitable, we got to put a stop to that. Those days are over. What do you do when you're not in the classroom? Where are you going to hide? Lockdown does not embrace the natural instinct of fight or flight. When you're faced with danger, your natural animal instinct is either to run or hide, fight. So we got to embrace that. We got to, if my daughter feels that she's unsafe, what do we tell her? Get away from the danger. Also helping others. If you're sitting in lockdown as the only option that you have, how are you actually helping others to solve this problem? How are you working as a team? You're not. Again, waiting for the inevitable. So as a parent, again, we've told, what if we told our kids about possible abduction? What if we told our loved ones about defense against rape? You do whatever you have to do so that you come home at night. Because otherwise bad things are going to happen. And yeah, it's a difficult conversation to have, but my wife will tell you, after we had that conversation last night, it was like, I could see the kids, it was like a sign, it was almost like relief. Okay, we had that conversation, it's over. We finally did have that difficult conversation, and now, Daddy told me, it's okay to do whatever I have to do. So again, alert, be alert, alert others to danger. And we can do that right in the schools, right in these schools right here in Austin. We can do it through Crisis Go, which is a communications app. We use technology, right? We can communicate that. Our teachers can communicate to other teachers. Our administrators can communicate to other administrators. We can communicate to parents. We're also going to open this up eventually for kids so that they can provide tips on what's going on, like anonymous tips. They can choose to be anonymous if they wish to. So alert encompasses a lot of things. It's how do you know about the danger that you're trying to be safe from? How are you letting others know that there's danger in the building? Lockdown. When we talk about lockdown, we still will use lockdown. We're not going to completely eliminate lockdown because it still may be appropriate. And when we talk about lockdown, we talk about barricading. In Virginia Tech, in the shooting at Virginia Tech, there were students that barricaded the room, and there were students that did not barricade. The students that barricaded survived. The students that did not faced the old, and that's sad. So we need to give our staff permission to do lockdown if it's necessary, barricade if it's necessary. Inform is like a continuation of alert. Be informed, inform the others, communicate. We're going to use Crisis Go if we have to. We're going to call 911 if we have to. Counter, C is for counter. As a last resort, if you're in the face of danger, if that bad man is right in front of you, do you have the skills or the knowledge to do whatever is necessary to come home to mom or dad? And I had this conversation last night, and I asked my 14-year-old, I said, what would you do if someone was in your face and you had to do something to get away? You should have heard the things that came out of my mouth. It was cool. And it made Dad proud. The 11-year-old needed a little bit more coaching, but we're getting there. E for evacuate, move away from danger. Could it mean evacuating out of this area? Absolutely. Could it mean evacuating out of the building? Getting into the tree line? Absolutely. If it's the safest place to be out of this building, for whatever reason, then do it. If, perchance, you're exiting the building and you're being alert, you're looking for other information that's going on, I tell my kids, like, you're not texting while you're walking out of the building, right? You're not texting when you're walking down the street on the sidewalk. So if you're exiting the building to evacuate, you should be alert. If you see something that you don't like when you're walking out of the building, for instance, a gunman, you've got to reassess, reevaluate, improvise, adapt, and overcome. Military guy sitting right here. Improvise, adapt, and overcome, right, sir?
That's right, sir.
Do you teach your daughters?
Yes, sir.
Officer D'Angelo is going to pick up the alert from here. And I'll pick this up in a minute.
So just to reiterate with when we're talking about Alice principles, we're just going to go over A, which is alert. So again, it's based on the threat, and the threat can mean many things. We've gone from different situations in schools where it could be an animal. We have just last week or the week before too, we had a gas leak, an incident. So if we have to put people and let them know and be informed of what's going on. So again, it's alerting others, calling 911. So it basically starts out with, at the school, we're going to get some type of notice. Wherever it's coming in from, it might be one of our students letting us know what's going on. It might be one of the staff members. However else, we'll have an announcement. There's going to be a lockdown procedure going into place. And again, we're not limiting who's going to be able to announce what's going on, because when you look at a school like this at Nauset High School, there's 7 different buildings here. So sometimes if we're in this building, we might not exactly be aware of what's going on in another building. And so we're going to constantly keep people informed. Different ways of communication. So we have, obviously I have a microphone today, but we have any of the announcements that's going over. We have our new app, which we're going to be going into more discussion, which is our Crisis Go. That's available for the parents. That's a way that we end up using a lot of communication between the staff members of what's going on and where to go to.
Just take a quick note here that no codes. And that's important because everybody forgets what codes are. Oh, what's a code red? What's a code blue? What's code 325? Codes are by the wayside. And even in the police world, we go now plain English over the radio. We're doing away with 10 codes. Because it's when you're in a stressful situation, you want to say what you're trying to say, and you want everybody else to understand what's going on. And it also helps if there's somebody in this room that's trying to do harm to all of us here, and I make an announcement that there's a person in the back of this room with a firearm, with a bomb, whatever it may be, now we all know. And that person is on notice that everybody knows, right? He knows, we know. He's gonna move. So the lockdown and barricade, all kinds of stuff that you can use to barricade these rooms, and I had this discussion with my kids again last night. Could you get some classmates together and help move the bookcase in front of the door? Absolutely. Chairs. You pile up a bunch of chairs in front of that door there, is that going to slow somebody down? Absolutely. And think about it, if every room is a hard target, if you harden the target with obstacles, the person's going to keep moving. Hopefully the next room is also barricaded. Maybe the room after that is empty because they have evacuated. So this is some of the things that we're going to be showing some of our kids how to do. Usually it's going to, like I said, age appropriate. We're going to be into the older age groups. Some of these doors, there's ways that you can prevent that door from opening out. I don't see any doors that open inward here, but there's ways to prevent doors from opening inward. Belts, backpacks, electrical cord. Could you tie that to a door handle and prevent somebody from getting in the room if the door swung out? Absolutely. How about wooden chocks? There's always wooden chocks to chalk doors open with, right? So if that door opens in, could a teacher jam a wooden chalk in there? Have I taught my daughters how to use a chalk? Did last night. Is that going to slow somebody down? It's going to slow them down. It may not stop them, but it's going to slow them down. And that's what we're looking for, is we're looking to buy some time so the police can get there. Because average response time for police, 5-6 minutes, right? Nationwide is 5 or 6 minutes. 5 or 6 minutes is a long time when you're by yourself. Orleans may be a little bit different because the police station's right next to the police department. Their response time is going to be quick. East Ham's a little bit further away. Wellfleet, they're right next door. Brewster, they're a little bit further away. So we do have the luxury of police stations being pretty close around here. Belt, rope, cord, anything. And there's ways for our teachers that we can show them. If they stand off to the side of the door with a door handle, this door had a regular door handle. If they stood here with a belt, a backpack, a cord, whatever it may be, they can slow that person down. It's just simple common sense. This is little stuff. It's not rocket science. Right, the wooden chalk. So these doors with the doors with the mechanical arms on them. If you take a belt and wrap it around the mechanical arm, it'll slow the door, it'll prevent it from opening. These are all things we've tried. I want to talk about distraction.
So other things that we could think of that we could end up using, again, just looking around in the classroom or room that you're in. And again, these concepts are not only being taught just for school, but you could use them anywhere, in workplaces. We're already in it with airports as well, too. We're looking at security measures. So here, books, book bags, purses, keys. Keys are actually a good item to end up using, a good defensive tool to end up using. And I know that's something that we ended up learning from a long time ago is self-defense. Right? Just carrying your keys, walking out to your car. But these, a lot of the kids have on them, especially the older ones, the high school level. Computers, tablets. Now, again, we're talking about, these are life-saving things that we need to look at. So it's not just that there's just like a little scenario going on, you know, so it's, if people are using these kinds of items, the computers, tablets, whatever else that they may need to use, that's what we want them to do.
Excuse me 1 second. Typical chair, that's in any classroom, right? Cliff's coming into the room, Mr. Stein, right? What can I do with this? Can I stop Cliff? There's a lot of things I can do with this little chair. And I can make Cliff pretty uncomfortable, right? I mean, it's little stuff. It's little stuff, but we got to give our teachers and kids and permission to do this stuff. And we're not going to teach a kindergartner to do that. But is a 10th grader able to do that? Is a 5th grader able to do that? Mine is.
Fire extinguishers, when we talk about water bottles too, a lot of times I don't even see the clear plastic bottles anymore. I see the heavy ones. I don't know if anyone has them with them tonight, but there's a lot of times the heavy ones. If they were to drop it, everyone wakes up because you're going to hear it. A lot of kids are carrying those on them as well though too. You could use that. And our goal is we want to distract and disorient. Right? If we have someone that's coming into the room that should not be coming into the room and they have some type of aggression, anger, or whatever that they're bringing towards people in that room, that's our goal, right?
Continuation of alert. That's how I look at Inform, right? Just a continuation of bringing that information, continuing to funnel that information, whether we're sending that information to police officers, whether we're sending that information to teachers, staff, whether it's the school secretary that calls the police department and says, hey, there's somebody here that doesn't belong. There's somebody here who's causing problems. So with the little kids, the really little ones, 3rd grade usually and up, at the Eastham Elementary School, Mr. Crosby, who's here, will tell you that I do individualized Alice response option training with all the classes. That's how we do our emergency drills in Eastham. I spend the day with Mr. Crosby and each teacher, and I'll spend 15 or 20 minutes with each class and discuss what would you do if. And it's pretty cool to hear some of the stuff that comes, right? I've taken kids at the elementary school level, kindergartners, and led them outside into the wood line to show them how to keep moving away from danger if they had to. And when I get there into the woods, in the surrounding neighborhood, I take a knee with them and I say, do you understand why we're doing this? Yeah, because if there's ever a bad man who's chasing us, I would know where to go. In Sandy Hook, there was a little kindergartner that brought some of his classmates into the neighborhood for refuge to a stranger. Knocked on the door, brought his classmates. So the question from some of these little kids are, is it okay to talk to a stranger in that situation? Yeah, the message is yes. Because what's the alternative? They're not coming home to mom and dad.
Okay, so counter is actually our distraction plan that we have. So have a plan and be ready. So being in the classroom, we're going to have doors barricaded. Have a plan. What if this happens? What if this happens? Because that's our next step. What if? You don't know what's going to happen next, but we want people to start planning on it. So it's planning on what happens if someone comes through that door? We have it barricaded, but they come through that door. Do we have objects that we can use to distract? Is there another plan that, where are you? Where's your evacuations? How about the windows? Okay, looking at those objects as well, too. How do we get out?
Is that with you to look?
every action requires this. So you have observe, orient, decide, and act. And what we're trying to do is, with the distraction techniques, is to distract, and for the person that could actually be coming in, is with their root, okay? So that they're thrown off. They're not going to be able to focus.
Action is quicker than reaction. If I move first, it takes that other person a fraction of a second to process that. It's a processing thing. And we learn this in the police academy. If I grab my colleague here, Detective Sergeant McLaughlin, and I have the first move on him, it takes him a second to figure out what I'm actually doing.
You're also taking the control away from the person, the threat. You're now in control possibly of that situation. They're going to have to make their decision based on the actions you take against them.
Is that a little complicated for a kindergartner? Yeah, and I wouldn't have that conversation with a kindergartner. But will a 10th grader get this? Will a 5th grader get it? Yeah, you may take a little bit of explanation, but with the help of their teacher being actually in the room with them to pick up and help support part of that presentation, yeah. Mr. Delcourt, unbelievable. I went into Mr. Delcourt's room in Eastham and had a conversation with his kids. And I said, hey, kids, what could you do if somebody was really right face-to-face with you? And you were face-to-face with your attacker. And one of the kids says, oh, I do this. And Mr. Delcourt, who is a military guy, actually I think went through this school district. He picked it right up where I was laying down, and I walked away from it. And he was talking to his kids about stuff he does with black belts. He's a black belt also. So that's a cool conversation for a kid to have with his teacher. And we just facilitated. Talk about your rad, right? Same thing.
So class I actually teach as well too is a RAD class. It's a rape aggression defense class. And I actually teach for women, and I actually teach a RAD kids class for young kids. So whether there's a possibility of an abduction, and we refer to it as like a stranger danger. And I have little kids that are 5 and 6 year olds, and I had like an aggressor, full-size grown man actually picking up the kids, and the procedures that we ended up teaching them just over a short period of time, they were actually able to escape from the aggressors. So it's really what you end up teaching people and going through the procedures as well too. We've all related a lot more when we talk about like just doing a drill and just doing a lockdown drill. We all know what a lockdown drill is. Now we need to take some extra steps.
So we talked about the OODA loop. The last part in Alice is escape. Evacuate, escape. Evacuate. Get away from the danger. And that's really the crux behind all this. Just move away from danger. Again, in fire alarms, we move kids away from the fire. We do. In school drills now, again, do we move kids? Are we good at moving kids? Really, police officers aren't, but teachers are really good at it. They've figured it out. They really know how to move kids around. So, one of the things I do with them is, all right, Mrs. Olson, bring the class out into the hallway, and we're going to start heading out like we're going out this way for a fire drill. She starts marching them along. Mrs. Olson, you need to stop, reverse direction, and go back. Do you have somebody at the end of that line that you can count on to keep the kids out of here? Because what you're facing right here is a problem. Could be fire, could be gunmen. What I say to the little kids is a coyote. Right, the really little kids? 3rd graders? You guys are on your way to lunch. Little Jimmy's leading the line to lunch. Teacher stops along the way to talk with one of her colleagues. and little Jimmy's at the front of the line. Shouldn't we tell little Jimmy what to do if there's not an adult there? So that's what we practice with these little kids, and they get it now. And Mr. Crosby's been gracious enough to allow us to practice this at this school. It started with Scotty Finnegan as well. And the idea behind this is that we start them young and little with these Alice ideas. And again, age appropriate. We gotta, it's just like talking to little kids. You gotta get down on a knee and talk to them at their level. And as they get older, you explain it to them so that they understand. And then when they get to the middle school, they've got a good, solid basis of response options. And when they come to the high school, hey, this is second nature. Now, when they go to college, and they end up at Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas, they've got an idea as to what to do. They've got a strong foundation. And we helped create that at the Nauset District, right from the elementary school level.
Immensely, thank you all. I'd like to specifically as well thank our administrators and our guidance counselors, Dee Smith, Sarah Stewart, Katie Cameron, all of you for coming out and supporting us and asking the questions. The conversation doesn't stop here, so additional questions that pop into your mind, feel free to send them my way, send them the high school principal, assistant principal, Superintendent Conrad, to any of the officers you have up front, including our Deputy Chief Fighter as well. So thank you immensely. Enjoy the night. We hope at least we've informed you to a higher level, so I appreciate it.
Thank you.